What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist here with
Gersh1.
and today we're back to answer more questions in another episode of For the Greater.
This is a video series where we answer the questions left by you, the viewer. If you have a question for us, comment down below. Put question in front of your question because we get to those questions first. And we also have super thanks if you guys enjoy watching our videos. You guys like us talking about 40K and all the other nonsense that we throw in there. You can hit us up with a super thanks. If you do, you could ask us anything you want and we will make it a thumbnail question for the next episode. Guaranteed. And that is why we are asking the question of, what's the end game of the Necrons?
Yeah, so the Necrons, they've been here for probably the longest time out of any races in 40K. The old ones left, so they don't count. But the Necrons have been fighting for a long time, and then the Catan tricked them into basically becoming their slaves. They lost their souls, and now they got these metal bodies. And then because of that, the Silent King left, and then now the Silent King is back. And that is a really... I want to say that should be more important, but I feel like GW's just dropping the ball on their current lore.
Yeah, I think with the Necrons it's tricky because they are almost as unfathomable as Chaos in that they can't die. Like, they're immortal beings and they're ruled over by a command protocol, and then the lords have command protocols over their dynasties. So the idea of what is the end game of the Necrons is I don't think they even know. Even when they were a Necron tier, they were just that we want to live forever just like the old ones. We want what we don't have. And ironically, now they have immortality, but they don't have no soul. So I don't really think there is a very definite question or answer to that question for the Necrons overall. Now, when you mentioned the Silent King returned because of the Tyranids.
Right. He left the galaxy, saw the threat that the Tyranids are, came back into the galaxy, and is trying to reunite and reawaken all the dynasties.
To fight the Tyranids. So the Necrons' endgame, through the guidance of the Silent King, is the eradication of the Tyranids. Now, I think that that's going to be in conflict with a lot of the other dynasties. The concept of I always forget what this is called. It's not the Cicatrix Maledictum. That web, that's
Pariah Nexus.
The Pariah Nexus. The purpose of the Pariah Nexus is to nullify chaos, because they see chaos as a big, big threat. So the Necrons' endgame is broken up into different sections, different parts, but with the Pariah Nexus, I think another part of their endgame is to seal up the Cicatrix Maledictum, get rid of chaos, and warp powers just in general.
Yeah, because when you think about it, GW is focusing on that, the Pariah Nexus. You look at the Warhammer Plus episodes that have the Necrons, it's taking place during the Pariah Nexus, and you don't really see or hear much else. The Silent King has returned. That's almost like saying, oh, the Emperor returned for the Imperium, but they're putting that on hold? What? I feel like the Silent King should be a bigger piece to the Necron lore, and they're just not really doing much with it. So, is that pushing away one of their end time scenarios for later? I don't know, and I don't know if that's the better idea.
Yeah. You also, the way we were talking about the Necrons kind of made me think of the question that we constantly get of is 40K stagnant? Because it seems like there's never really a plot that they follow. It's always little bits and pieces. And that's part of what makes 40K so cool. I think if you are a reader of the lore through the Black Library, if you play the games, in your mind, you're thinking, I want somebody else to create a story for me, and I follow that story, and I want an end, or I want a climax, I want that kind of stuff. When in reality, for what it is, which is a tabletop game, you don't have that. You have a bunch of ambiguity so that you can build on it, and you can say, my Necrons are going to fight the orcs today, and this is why.
Yeah, so it's we got to get out of that mindset of 40K is a timeline, and we want to see scenarios push it forward. Where no, that's not the case. 40K is a web with different scenarios happening different times or concurrently, and you may be pushed sooner or further back in that timeline.
Yeah, so I like that. Which brings me to the next question, which is ironic. Musica player says, "What is the fate of the Eldar?"
So the Eldar, again, kind of tied in with the Necrons, because they've been kind of going back and forth, fighting against one another. Not so much in current times, but they were like one of the big superpowers back with the Necron. I feel like the Eldar, again, they're kind of split into three different roles. That of the Inari, which is trying to unify all Eldar to kind of push back against Slanesh. And then you also have the Harlequins, which are doing their their dances to basically talk about the Rana Dandra, which is the end times of chaos. And you also have Isha. She's been captured by Nurgle and is whispering cures of all these Nurgle diseases into the material realm. But at the same time, she's all being tortured. So it's like the Eldar are getting bits and pieces of their lore kind of rebranded because they're very old lore-wise. They have metal models. Even the lineup is very old. And whenever they do introduce a new piece to their puzzle of their kind of story, I feel like GW gives them inklings and then doesn't do anything because they're not a good selling army. So because of that, I feel like we don't get much when it comes to their lore.
And it's the position that they play. They're supposed to be a dying race, and they're supposed to be a rip-off of the elf from Lord of the Rings and from fantasy. And I think that whenever you have that archetype of like the elf, in any type of place, you kind of have we're one day gonna leave this world, and we're supposed to be really connected to the rhythms of whatever it is. In this situation, they're really connected to the Immaterium. They have the webway and all that kind of stuff. Any potential end games in the future, though, have been hinted at. They're here to destroy chaos, and they're here to defend themselves from the Necrons, because they know the dangers of the Necrons because of the old ones. The old ones are basically like, hey, we created you to kill the Necrons. And then they know the dangers of chaos because of Slanesh. Slanesh basically consumed them.
Yeah.
So if anything, in the future, you better believe, like what you were saying, you're going to get more stories that are very ambiguous, but it's the Eldar fighting chaos and fighting Necrons. But then for us to get that, the race itself has to be popular, and it's not.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the things that like GW kind of like, I get it, they're a business, but like they have to give us more lore, more information on these other races besides just focusing entirely on like the Imperium, the Space Marines.
Yeah, but then at the same time, it doesn't sell.
Yeah, and then when you look at it, like everything that kind of comes out, for example, Space Marine 2 has just come out right now, and we see a bunch of new people diving into the IP. They're not going to want to learn about the Necrons. They're not going to want to learn about the Eldar. They're going to want to learn about the Space Marines because that's what GW pushes first and foremost when it comes to new people or just anything in media, really. Like, when's the last time you saw a big game that had like a Xenos race?
Yeah, you don't.
Fire Warrior, and that was what, 20 years ago?
And it gave you headaches.
Yeah. So I feel like anytime there's like a game that really goes against the grain of what GW does, it's like pushed to the wayside.
Yeah, because I think there was even a game with the fights in Kamara.
Mm-hmm.
There was also a racing game for the orcs.
Oh, I think, yeah, I heard like nothing about it. I was hearing more about it when it was announced, and like now that it's out, I haven't heard a peep.
Oh, wow, I didn't even know it was out.
But I heard it's actually pretty good. I heard it's like a Twisted Metal type game.
Ooh, those were fun.
Mm-hmm.
Comment down below. Let us know if you guys would like us to stream those games. We could, that would be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Is it what, for the PC?
Yeah, probably everything's for the PC, but we'll see. We'll see, because like when it comes to consoles, like most 40K games, Warhammer games in general are like mobile games. So we'll see.
Yeah. Next question.
This one's by Twist Jane. Do you think chaos controls the warp, or does the warp control chaos?
So the warp itself is just a blank slate, and then chaos has grown from it. And it is this slate.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's unfathomable.
Yeah, it's timeless. Time can go backwards, forwards, any other different way. Like, you can't really interpret it. Things are birthed and die at the same time and never did. So it's a very like mind trickery type thing. Chaos birthed demons, but demons themselves are not chaos because they come from a god.
Yeah.
So it's a very like trippy thing to like try to comprehend.
I feel like it's almost like us, right? Like, are humans in control of the earth, or is the earth in control of humanity? Because if the earth goes away, what happens to humanity? It goes away. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking like the whole thing of like the what is it, the Reese's boat thing? Like I have a boat and I replace a board, and if I replace all the boards, it's still the same boat, or is it a new boat?
Yeah, like in 100 years, yeah.
Because technically with humans, like we shed our skin, bones and stuff like that. So are we the same being we were like 20, 30 years ago?
What is consciousness?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. We're at the same time, too, think of Osmosis Jones. That's happening in our body.
It is, yeah.
There's little magic policemen, white blood cells.
Yeah, if I have an Ultramarine mini and I put him in simple green, brush him off and paint him as a Dark Angel, is he still that Ultramarine?
Yeah. Think about that.
Yeah.
And those were the questions for today. If you guys have more questions for us, please comment down below. Thank you guys so much for listening. Hopefully we didn't get too philosophical with you guys.
Yeah.
Talking about Osmosis Jones.
Did we answer any of those questions?
Probably not. But thanks for the support, guys.
That's right. And keep those questions coming, because it's The Sound Alchemist.
Gershwan.
And we are out of here.
Always used to put my freedom first, and then